everyone. I wanted to make sort of a part 2 to the video I made yesterday challenging rappers. That video yesterday has now been viewed millions and millions of times all over social media. It brought up some interesting questions I wanted to answer and also some more thoughts that I had. But first, I wanted to address something. Some people brought up the fact that there was a painting, it's an Andy Warhol painting of a gun in the background of the video that went viral. And they asked, why would you do that when you're telling people to stop perpetuating violence? And let me be very clear, guns do not automatically equal violence, okay? I am very pro-gun. I believe in the Second Amendment. I want you to imagine a country where every home had a father and a mother in it, and that father protected the home with a gun and protected his family, his children, everything that he loves with a gun. That is a good, strong country. In fact, if you look back at history, when Black America was thriving, it had fathers in the home, it had a fantastic culture built around it, beautiful music, and it had fathers protecting their loved ones with a gun, okay? That is the country that we need to get back to, full of opportunity and filled with families taking care of each other, okay? So I hope that answers your question. I am proud to be a gun owner, and I think more people need to be responsible gun owners. And if you haven't seen the movement out there for more Black gun ownership, you need to check out Maj Toure. He's awesome. He has an organization that goes to train people and train families and to make sure that people know their Second Amendment rights and use them. Now, to address another issue, a larger issue that I thought was really interesting. So this video goes over millions and millions of views on social media and amazing reception from the Black community. People are in agreement, and I knew they would be, because guess what? Black America's been saying this for a long time. We just need more people in prominent positions to speak up and to fight for them. And so I wasn't surprised by that. What I was sort of, laughing over is the fact that the only people who disagreed with what I said, which was basically an empowerment statement. I want rappers to empower themselves to change the culture because we all know the executives won't. Some people said, why don't you say this to the executives? Because we all know the executives won't do it, period. They won't. They've profited off the backs of this entire culture and, rappers perpetuating it for too long. They're not going to change. Rappers are a part of the community, and I see who they are, and I know some of them are willing to change. So that's why I put it on them to do it. Now, to get into the interesting thing I noticed that the only people who were pushing up against the message and saying, how dare you say this, people shouldn't listen, things along those lines, it was white Democrats. And you know what they were saying along with it? These were a couple of my favorite comments. I have them on screen over here, so I want to read them. One of them said, I bet you all are not aware that this guy opposes handouts. He's not someone you want to listen to. You realize how racist that statement is? As if all Black people need a handout? Are Black people suddenly unequal and unable to achieve their dreams without a handout from somebody? I'm sorry. I believe in a society where everybody is capable of achieving their dreams, and we don't go and say, oh, well, you're this color, so you need this first. I think that's terribly racist, okay? The second thing that came up is they said, are you going to let a white man tell you what to do? I wasn't telling anybody what to do. I had a challenge for other people. It's up to them whether they do it or not. They're empowered to make their own decision. They can continue perpetuating the culture and more people die, or they can be strong enough, brave enough, wise enough to be a leader, to be a man, and to make a change. That's on them to choose. But it also opened up some other thoughts I wanted to share with you guys. The reality is, Democrats have gotten away with this for too long. They've gotten the Black vote for no reason. They don't deserve it. In fact, if you look at the history of the Democratic Party, they're the ones who were responsible for the KKK. In fact, not long ago, prominent Democrats today were shaking hands and going to the funeral and giving eulogies for a prominent Grand Wizard KKK member who then later went to Congress. Okay? These are people who also oppose civil rights. And when they try to get away with it, you know what they say? They say the party's flipped. They talk about a Southern strategy. The party's flipped. Don't you know that? That in itself is also a great lie. I challenge you, if you have bought that lie before, I want you to go search out, find what politicians switched parties. Go look. I'll wait. You're not going to find a bunch of politicians who changed parties. You know why? Because the parties didn't change. Republicans were the party that opposed slavery. They opposed the KKK. They fought them. Republican abolitionists got killed fighting for black people to be freed from slavery, okay? Because it was the right thing to do. And now, if we go further with this, let's go further down the line. Today, this is a group, a party that supports constantly dividing and also looking down on a group of people and pretending like they're incapable of very menial, easy tasks because of the color of their skin. Let's talk about voter ID. Every time that I have brought up voter ID and every time a prominent Republican has brought up voter ID to make sure that people are who they say they are when they go to vote and to make sure that illegal immigrants don't vote in our elections, you know what Democrats say? They say, well, that's racist because black people can't get IDs. I think it's racist that you think black people can't get IDs. That's what's racist. Every black person I know has an ID. They drive, they go to the store to buy things, they buy Sudafed. You need IDs to fly. I mean, what are they really saying? Are they saying that black people have a different level of intelligence that prevents them from getting IDs? Think about how racist that is. That's who the Democrats are today. They perpetuate their entire party off of a system that needs you to be dependent on them. Because if you're not dependent on them, if you're empowered, if your community is thriving, you don't need them anymore. So who's incentivized to make sure that the black community needs them and by virtue of that needs to be impoverished, needs to be in a state of need and lack instead of a mindset of abundance? The Democratic Party needs that. So that's why now more than ever, this is the time for black Americans to rise up and to take their power. Fight for your community. Make sure that your leaders in the community are actually doing things for you and not serving some master in DC or in the government or part of the elite, okay? Because that's what's happening right now. We have a whole lot of fake leaders, fake social justice warriors. None of them actually care. They care about pooling money off the top. Look at somebody like Sean King, pretends to care about every issue under the sun with social justice. But who has a million pieces written about them on how they've sucked money out of all these organizations from all the donations they've gotten and profited off the backs again of black people? Let's stop this craziness and let's do the right thing. Change the culture and you will change the outcomes for everyone. The other thing you can support is school choice, because what's one of the biggest problems in the black community outside of the violence and fatherless homes? It's education. Black kids are being given in inner cities and impoverished areas, more likely than any other race, terrible outcomes in education because they get terrible education options in their area. You want that to change? Republicans support school choice. That means we support giving you the money. You decide what school is best for your kid. Instead of the school in the inner city that's terrible, you get that $17,500 that's earmarked to a child in their public school in a place like Baltimore. We say, hey, here's an education savings account with $17,500. You choose what school your kid's gonna go to. Then you say, you know what? I'm empowering my child. I'm sending them to that private school over there that costs $16,800. You use the rest for lunches, okay? That's empowerment. That will change the future. That will lead to outcomes where people who don't have a leg up end up experiencing the American dream and having all the opportunity they could imagine. I know this video is long, but I wanted to cover everything, and I still didn't cover everything I wanted to, like the fact that the government has been working against the black community for as long as I can remember. If you look at things like the Tuskegee experiments, we're talking about the government secretly going and giving black men syphilis as part of a test. They treated them like animals.
I get paid over $10,000 a month to do what you are literally doing right now.
That was the government. And again, you see this all over the world. These people who were praised throughout COVID and the pandemic, like Bill Gates and people in these vaccine industries, you know where they test a bunch of these vaccines? The ones that don't work out or the ones that have a lot of side effects? They test them in third world countries and in Africa, predominantly black and people of color populated areas. So they bear the brunt of that testing. Why? Again, this is a product of the elite's control mechanisms. Do you want to break out of it? You've got to break out of your own small paradigms that have been sold to you through media about who the Democrats are, who they're fighting for. They're not fighting for you. They never have been. That's why you're in at least the same position that you were previously. Some worse, most worse, honestly, under this administration. And look, I'm not saying Republicans are perfect, or there's some people in the Republican Party who have sort of backwards ideas in certain areas. Sure, okay? I'm talking about the new right, the Republican Party I represent, which is the vast majority of Republican voters, okay? We believe in a society that is equal, full of opportunity, and free, okay? We want to lift each other up. For so long, the idea of unity has been something that's like a mirage far away we're never going to touch. But that doesn't need to be the case. The Democratic Party and the elite have been trying to sell us on a system that keeps us at each other's throats. You know why? Because that keeps us away from their front door. Let me say that again so everybody gets it. They want to keep us at each other's throats so that we're not at their front door. They don't want accountability for them, for the elite. They want us to be busy fighting with each other over skin color. And I guess that's one of the last notes. I had a bunch of people saying, you're all going to listen to this, you know, Caucasian. I'm Cuban. Okay. So again, this should teach you a lesson about going and judging everything on identity. Okay. You never know what people are, what their story is. What you do and are able to control is your choices. Rappers are able to control their choices that they make coming up in the future. Will they choose to change the culture? Because they have an opportunity in front of them and a social movement where the people want it. People want this to change. The reality is, if those rappers don't take the initiative, it won't. Because it's a lot easier to keep the radio on and listen to the song than it is to make a change as a consumer. But for the people making the songs, if you all band together, that's what they fear. So make the right choice. Band together and make a change. This is the moment, this is the time. Do it.